Hello, I'm Regid Ahmed with BBC World News. Our top stories. A day of national mourning in Italy for all those who died in Wednesday's earthquake, which devastated entire communities. The US and Russia say a deal is nearly done in Syria, but not yet. It comes as thousands leave a besieged suburb of Damascus. A line in the sand. A court in France rules against the burkini ban, but some officials say they will defy the decision. And how race relations might play a part in the race to the White House. We look at Donald Trump's efforts to win over minority voters. Hello and welcome. A day of national mourning is being held in Italy for the hundreds of people killed in Wednesday's earthquake. The country's president and prime minister will attend a funeral ceremony on Saturday. At least 281 people lost their lives and 400 others were injured. The search for survivors continues, but hopes are fading that anyone else will be found alive. Simon Jones reports. Well, Giorgia Orlandi is a freelance journalist. She's been in Amatrice and joins us now live from L'Aquila. Giorgia, first of all, there was a very large earthquake on Wednesday, but there have been several aftershocks as well. How have you found that the residents and rescuers are coping with that?
Well, indeed, aftershocks, first of all, are disrupting the work of the emergency services and the fire brigade are trying to dig in to see whether there are any people surviving under the rubble. But also there has been this very strong aftershock yesterday morning around 6:30 a.m. local time, which was very much felt across the area. I could feel it as well here in L'Aquila. And yesterday I was speaking to some of the residents, some of the survivors, who told me that these aftershock in particular was obviously very worrying. Those people are living under the constant fear of a new strong quake as the one that the very strong one on Wednesday morning that made the whole village collapse.
Given so much of the town is destroyed, where are the residents staying? How are they surviving since the large earthquake?
Some of them are staying in the camps, so they're sleeping in the tents. About 30 of them slept last night in Amatrice in the tents that have been organized, arranged just outside the very center. But others are going back with their relatives. Obviously, they're under constant support by their families who came to rescue them, to spend time with them. And I have to say that these people really need psychological support because obviously they're traumatized, having lost not only their homes, but their dear ones.
Italy is still struggling as a country, economically, financially, post-financial crisis. How is the country going to cope with, presumably, the cost of rebuilding, but even before that, the cost of this huge rescue effort?
Well, Italy and the government is doing as much as possible in order to set a new example after what happened in L'Aquila. They're investing a lot of money, this fund of 50 million euros that will help rebuild the whole area. But also there's a new initiative, a new plan that is aiming at rebuilding the houses in a different way. Of course, we don't have to forget about as well the generosity of the people, donations, private donations. So there has been an effort coming from all angles of the country.
Giorgia Orlandi, thank you very much for your time. A freelance journalist there who has been to Amatrice, one of the affected towns in the Italy earthquake. Now, a new deal to restore a ceasefire in Syria is close to being agreed. That's according to the US Secretary of State John Kerry. It comes after talks in Geneva with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. Government and rebel forces agreed on Friday to allow the evacuation of civilians from the besieged Damascus suburb of Daraya. Lise Doucette's report contains some distressing images. Well, if you want to know how significant the town of Daraya is in the Syrian war, go to our website. That's bbc.com/news. You'll find an article answering just that. There's also plenty of links to the rest of our coverage of the region and also a little bit more analysis from Lise Doucette. Some news in brief now. American officials have announced that all blood donated to the US and its territories should be tested for the Zika virus as they try to prevent transmission through the blood supply. Previously, blood screening was mostly limited to parts of Florida and Puerto Rico, where there have been cases of local transmission. A federal judge in the US has issued a temporary ruling that the University of North Carolina must allow 2 transgender students and a transgender staff member to use the toilets that match their gender identity. The decision overturns a state law that requires transgender people to use restrooms that correspond to the sex shown on their birth certificates. Turkey's president has officially opened one of the world's largest suspension bridges, creating a new link between Europe and Asia. The Yavuz Sultan Selim Bridge in Istanbul becomes the 3rd bridge to span the Bosphorus Strait. It's part of President Erdogan's drive to modernise Turkey's largest city, of which he is a former mayor. Well, at least 3 mayors in France say they'll defy a court decision to suspend a ban on the burkini, the full-body swimsuits worn by some Muslim women. The highest administrative court said the ban was a serious violation of fundamental freedoms. Hugh Schofield has more. Well, stay with us on BBC World News. Still to come, how the annexation of Crimea may have helped to boost tourism in this Ukrainian port city. Well, this is BBC World News. I'm Regid Ahmed. The latest headlines. A national day of mourning has begun in Italy in memory of those who died in the country's devastating earthquake. The United States and Russia have failed to reach a deal to agree a temporary ceasefire in parts of Syria, but have committed to continuing their talks over the next few days. Well, there will be no Arab Spring in Zimbabwe, says President Robert Mugabe. He's accusing foreign powers of being behind unrest in the capital, Harare, on Friday. Opposition groups organised a demonstration to call for electoral reform ahead of polls in 2018. Brian Hungway has more. Well, Brian Hungway reporting there. Let's just bring you some breaking news now. Bangladesh police have shot dead at least 3 Islamist militants, including the suspected mastermind of an attack on a cafe that killed 22 hostages last month. Well, gunmen attacked the Holy Artisan Cafe in the Bangladeshi capital, Dhaka. 18 foreigners, including Italian, Japanese, American and an Indian, were killed during the siege. 2 Bangladeshis died, in addition to 2 police officers and at least 5 of the attackers. Officials said the attackers belonged to a banned domestic Islamist group, although so-called Islamic State said it carried out the attack. It's been more than 2 years since Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine. It was once a hotspot for local and foreign tourists. It's not much of a surprise to say that all that changed with the instability that followed the takeover by Russians. But now the city of Odessa on the coast of Ukraine is emerging as a top tourist destination, as Anastasia Gribanova discovered when she paid a visit. Well, that's it for now, but you can get in touch with me and most of the team on Twitter. I'm at Regid Ahmed. For more news, go to our website, bbc.com/news, and get all of the latest BBC News at BBC World on Twitter. See you soon.